Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jasmine, I'm 23 and if you don't know I have one baby boy named Zakari and he's just turned 3 months old, so I thought I'd do a video on the 4th trimester. If you're pregnant, you know already that pregnancy is 3 trimesters, but what we like to call the 4th trimester is that kind of adjustment period after you give birth. Just like the other trimesters, again it's a 12-week period after you give birth. The 4th trimester is really weird because it's such a big change. Like the transformation that happens and the adjustment that goes on is so weird because it's not just you that's adjusting, but it's also your child that's adjusting. And if you can hear in the background, it's my son. He's asleep in his bouncer right now, but that's the mechanical noise. It's a major period of adjustment for both us and our babies. Like think of it, for our babies, they've been living in our comfy wombs, eating as much as they want, sleeping as much as they want, and now they're out in this cold environment and it's full of all these new sensory experiences, which can be sensory overload for them. Like what I want you to know is it's okay for the early days of parenthood to be difficult. It is okay for that transitional period to be challenging. If it wasn't, I'd be surprised. It's a period of transition for everyone that's in the baby's life, whether you're the mum, whether you're the dad, whether you're an auntie, whether you're a sibling. It's just a major period of transition. One thing that can help with the kind of transition from being inside the womb to being outside the womb is to try and make the environment that they're in as womb-like as possible. So one thing I did when I was in the hospital was do makeshift wombs, and this was where I would probably like wrap him in like a towel around him just to kind of give him that space, and make him feel tight and cozy and protected like he used to be when he was in the womb, because you know babies have that startle reflex, they always like jump and stuff like that, but I found he was less jumpy when he was in his womb-like environment, so I felt like it just made them feel really safe on. Another thing you can do is skin-to-skin contact. Skin-to-skin contact is just like the best thing you can do with your baby. Like with me in the early days, it was just for like, obviously your baby has been inside you most likely, and it's had your warmth, it's had your heat, it knows your heartbeat. So to give your baby that sense of security is really great. I used to do skin-to-skin contact, or like try wearing them in a sling or something like that. Like even just having my son on my chest, that was the only way he would sleep for a long time. He'd only sleep on me or other people because he needed the warmth from someone else and to feel that safety. Like just being close to you and hearing your heartbeat will work wonders. So yeah, try and make it womb-like, keep it warm, you know, and keep them close to you. Like it's highly likely that in the first week or so that they will only sleep on you or somebody that is like you. Now that's out of the way, let's get into you and how this 4th trimester is going to affect you. It's honestly such an emotional roller coaster. Like I look back now at how I was a month ago, how I was a month before that, and it literally every week it changes. Every week my son changes, but every week something's going on, like something's happening. Like it's so up and down. It's like literally an emotional roller coaster. That transitional period is really overwhelming because not only have you like hormones and all this stuff, you're doing 24-hour round the clock care for a baby, and you're having someone solely dependent on you for a lot of things. And that can be really overwhelming and stressful and scary, and a lot to deal with, especially if you're a single parent like me. It can be very, very overwhelming, and you can feel like you're crumbling. Like my friends will say to me like, yeah, he was crumbling in that first couple weeks, but I think I needed that period to be where I am now, because I learned so much, I made mistakes, I picked things up, and that's the thing, it's a learning curve, it's a learning experience. You're going to try things, you're gonna have to figure out things that work for you and work for baby. Like it's not just always gonna be some natural thing that you have all the answers to, because parenting does not come with a book, motherhood does not come with a book, babies do not come with an instruction manual. So like you can't just know all the answers to everything, and that's okay. Like you have to be fair to yourself, and I know it's easier said than done, especially when the situation, because like a lot of times my baby used to be looking at me like, why can't you fix my problems, and then I'm getting frustrated like, why can't I fix it, am I rubbish, am I shit, do you know what I mean? Especially like when he had colic, his colic was, it felt like it lasted months, but really it only lasted a month. But that month was hell. And if you don't know what colic is, it's like when they have trapped wind and they can't get out, and you can't get out, there's no way to get out, and obviously their little bodies, all this air inside it, it's really horrible, and they're in pain. Like my son, he would just scream, he wouldn't sleep at night time, so night times were horrible. I used to dread them. On top of that, when you're not sleeping and stuff like that, it's just a lot, and you get really frustrated and stressful and all of these things because you're so overwhelmed and you can't fix everything. And like, I just want you to know, like, I had it really, really bad, and we got past it, and we're great now. So like, what I want you to know is the tough times, they do pass, and it does get easier. And I know sometimes people just say things like that, but it does actually genuinely get easier. I can't lie, you're going to be recovering from giving birth for the majority of the 4th trimester. Like, unless you had a really easy, smooth birth, which if you did, I'm very happy for you. If you didn't, then most likely you'll be recovering for that, pretty much that entire period. Like, everyone heals at different paces. I know for me, the majority of that period, at least a month and a half of it, I was recovering still. Because obviously you still have to wait till your 6 to 8 week checkup to make sure that you're fine and cleared for like sex and all of that kind of stuff. So majority of that time you are just focusing on being there for baby and healing. And if you had a difficult or a traumatic birth, or like you had surgery or things like that, it's gonna be stressful, it's gonna feel worse. One thing I want you to know is that if you're sitting there questioning to yourself if you're doing enough or if you're doing things right, then you're on the right path. And that's all that matters. Like, as long as you are doing everything you can for your baby and you're trying your best, like, that's what's important. And if you do need help, then ask for help. Like, it's actually a very, very mad period of time. Like, it feels so much longer. Like, because of where I didn't sleep a lot, because it's just me, and obviously your baby eats a lot, like I was up every couple hours. So, and in between that, my son was not sleeping very long periods of time anyway, so I wasn't sleeping very long, if at all, because you're so concerned, like, are they breathing, or is there going to be problems, and you're stressing about 101 things, or it's like, sleep when the baby sleeps, or but at the same time you've got to eat when the baby sleeps, you've got to keep the house clean when the baby sleeps, you've got to wash clothes when the baby sleeps, you've got to do so many things when the baby sleeps that you don't actually have time to really sleep at all. So sleep when you can, and like a lot of people say, like, oh, like, make sure baby's sleeping in the cot, all of that kind of stuff. But all I'll say on that is find what works for you and baby, and find what means that you can sleep and that baby can sleep, and do it. That's what I've been doing. And if that's the only way I can sleep, because if you don't sleep, yeah, you're gonna feel like rubbish. You're gonna feel so bad, because you're so drained, and emotionally, like, your mental state is gonna deteriorate if you're not sleeping. Like, everyone knows that. I start getting irritable, I'm getting more tearful, like, all of that kind of stuff. So like, sleep as much as you can when you can, but don't beat yourself up about things. Like, if you have to ask someone else to help you with cooking or cleaning or something, then cool, do that, and do what you can, but just don't beat yourself up. All I can say is it feels like forever, and that's what I meant. Like, it feels like forever, especially when you wake up with such short intervals. It starts feeling like your week is a month, your day is now a few days, if that makes sense. Like, your 24-hour period, because of where you've woken up, it feels like a new day. All the time it feels like a new day. And because of that, it feels like those hard times are lasting a long time when you're in the moment. But once you've gone out of that moment and you look back on it, you're like, oh, that wasn't actually that long a period of time. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a long period of time. But when you're in it, it just feels like a never-ending period of shit. But all I can say is that time will pass, and it will feel like forever at the moment, but it will go, and you'll look back and you'll be like, oh my gosh, do you remember when I used to do X, Y, and Z? Or I used to get so frustrated about everything. Like, if I couldn't walk long periods of time, because where I was healing, I was in pain a lot of the time. Even bending down, I was in pain a lot of the time. Going to the toilet, I was in pain a lot of the time. So much stuff just felt like I was in pain, or everything felt draining. Like, literally I spent all day pretty much in one space, feeding my baby, or changing my baby, put my baby to sleep, feeding my baby, changing my baby, put it to sleep, and it just felt like you're on this draining cycle, and it just never ever ends. And now I look back and I go, oh, that was a lot. Because they say, like, in the first, like, period of time, babies are sleeping like, babies are eating 12 times in a 24-hour period. Every 2 hours. Every 2 hours minimum. And where I had difficulties with my son and the breastfeeding and everything, it was more than that. So everything just felt super, super draining. It's just like you don't have time to do anything, and like you're lucky if you can have a shower. And like even now, I'll FaceTime my friends, and it could be like 6 o'clock at night, and they've got kids as well. They'll be like, oh, you look nice. And I'm like, bro, I had a shower. I've had a shower. And they're like, at least you've had one. And that is pretty much how it goes for a lot of the period of time, especially if you're on your own. Congratulate yourself on the small things you do, whether that is having a shower, whether that is cooking yourself a meal, whether that is actually having a nap, or whether it is getting out and going on a walk. Congratulate yourself on those small wins, because those are big achievements, especially early on. Like even like I started taking my son to play groups and things like that at 2 months, and I went there and all the other babies were like 8-9 months plus, and they were like, I'm surprised you brought him out. Like I couldn't get out of the house at this period of time, and I just thought it was normal. I thought those are the things you was meant to do, was to get out of the house and try and do these things. And before I went to them, I thought I was failing by not getting out there. So I was like, okay, cool, I've got to psych myself up, and I've got to get out, and I've got to go to these things because that's what I should be doing. And other people are like, yeah, no, I couldn't do that. Like, you're doing really well. Mum guilt is real. Mum guilt is real. Like, you'll find a reason to blame yourself, whether you think you're not doing enough, or you've done something wrong and you beat yourself up about it. Like, if you've had to cut your baby's fingers and all your baby is doing is like cutting their nails and stuff, and then you actually like cut their finger skin or something like that, then you beat yourself up about everything. And it's like, you didn't mean to do something wrong, but you did, and then you feel horrible, and then you'll just replay things in your mind like, I should have done this, I should have done better, I should have blah blah blah. And it's like, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself with things like that, because it may seem like a lot at the moment, but it's not always going to be like that. All I can say is, one thing with the 4th trimester is that your relationships are really, really going to be tested. Your relationships with everyone, your relationship with your child's father, your relationship with your family members, your relationship with whoever is immediately around you are going to be so tested. And it's also going to be tested in terms of your friendships as well. But for those that are immediately around you, like, you're going to be super irritable. You're already really hormonal. Like, that was one thing, like, immediately after, I was definitely really hormonal. And your body is still balancing out for a while after that, and you're waiting to get your period and all those kind of things, so you don't know how it's going to work. But you're running on like 0 hours sleep. You're probably not eating. You're tired. You're irritable. You're feeling really stressed and overwhelmed. That is going to be testing. But now you've also got a baby crying in the mix of it. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a very, very trying time. And all I can say, and I've said this to a lot of people, if your relationship wasn't tested in this period of time, I'd be surprised at that. Everyone I know, regardless of their circumstances, every relationship has been tested. Whether you're arguing, like, I used to beef my sister all the time. I used to beef her all the time because I was tired, because I was irritable. She was being jarring, but I was just more like, what's the word? Like, everything just agitated me more. Everything just got under my skin, and I was just finding reasons to argue with people because I wasn't very happy. And like, with your friends and stuff, like, for me, I have a rule that not many people know about until they actually come and see my son or myself, is if you haven't made effort to see me or my son by the time he's 4 months, which I think is more than fair, then I will not be really trying with you anymore. And unless there's some mad reason as to why you couldn't make effort to come and see us, then that's on you guys. But 4 months, I think, is more than fair. Like, there's a couple of people that I know that they live coy, or like, even people I've known. I met so many people from like TikTok and stuff like that. Even people I've known from there, I've seen, or I've made plans to see, or when they're coming down from uni, they're going to come and see me, and they're excited, and they actually check in, and those kind of things. Like, people I haven't spoken to from secondary school, actually chat to me and tell me, like, see my son and say how beautiful he is and all of these kind of things. It's like people that should be there aren't there. So yeah, your relationships, your friendships, everything like that is going to be tested. Not gonna lie, I definitely recommend letting people know where you're at. And I know that that can be quite daunting to people to do, but letting people know how you're feeling is a really good way of, one, making sure that you don't kind of collapse under all the pressure of being a mom. Like, you put pressure on yourself, society puts pressure on you, everyone around you probably puts pressure on you, family, old school people, everyone's put pressure on you. So one thing I'd say is let people know how you're feeling. And not that they don't necessarily have to be able to help you in your situation or anything like that, but it's more the fact that you'll have someone to confide in and cry to if you need to, because a lot of times you're holding things in. Like, people have said to me, like, oh, don't cry in front of your baby because they'll pick up on it, da, 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 da. That's actually a real thing. It's actually a real thing. So I used to try and bottle everything up, but if you bottle everything up, you're just actually gonna overflow at some point and explode, and it's not the greatest thing to do. But as long as you're letting someone know that what's going on with you, and you're having someone that you can vent to if you need to, you will feel better. Like, don't stress yourself over the things you can't control. Deal with things that you can control. Like, if you need to let the washing pile up, if you need to stay at home because you're not ready to go out, or going out is so much more difficult than you was expecting it to be, then stay home. If you need to order takeaways or say to your friend, can you make me something to eat because I just don't have time to do it right now, do that. And I know it's weird asking for help. Like, I don't like asking people for help, but in the interest of you and your baby, especially your baby here, we gotta start manning up and saying, if you need help, you need to start asking people for help. And it's just until you're able to do your things yourself. Like, even now, like, I rarely really get the chance to, like, cook properly and stuff like that. But at the start, I couldn't even dream of cooking. I could barely dream of eating a bowl of cereal without my son screaming at me. And that's what I mean. That growth is a real thing. Like, at the start, I couldn't walk 20 minutes without him being hungry and needing to feed. I literally, it was February, and I'd walk to the park and I'd have to feed him in the park in the cold, and feed him again when I got back. And it was just constantly like that. Now I can actually go out for a few hours with him. We can go on a drive without him waking up crying that he's hungry. And that's what I mean. Like, it, over time, things do get easier. Like, even when it comes to, like, your baby pooping all the time. Like, my son, he used to, after every feed he'd poop, during each feed he'd poop. I don't know why, somehow it relaxes him, but he used to poop all the time. Now he doesn't poop as much. Like, things like that, that's what I mean. It just gets easier. Your baby starts sleeping a little bit longer, so you get to sleep a little bit longer. You can put your baby down, your baby can support their neck a little bit better. Just all of these things will get easier, and you'll sit there after 4 months, and after the 3 months, and you'll be like, oh, that was crazy, because it feels like such a long time. But I look back and I'm like, one thing that people used to say to me is they don't like, when my son was a newborn, like fresh out the womb, people used to say to me they don't remember what their child looked like at the age. They don't remember their child at that age. And I'm getting to the point, and I'm only in the third month with him, and I'm getting to the point where I don't remember what my son looked like properly as a newborn, because I'm with him all day, every day. I can only see him as he is now. Like, I know what he looked like, I know what the memories look like, I look at the pictures and everything, but I don't remember him being that small. Because even now I'm like, he's small, but he was smaller then. And that is one thing that I'd really say, like, definitely take all the pictures you need to, make all those memories you need to, because I don't know why, but you just start to get hazy on that whole period of time. I'm not hazy really on the birth yet, because that was a lot, but I'm hazy on my son, on what he was like what he was like, because he changes so much. Like, every week he changes so much, and that's why, like, those people that aren't in your lives, or those people that don't meet your child, they're not being there for all these milestones that they're hitting. And it doesn't have to be major milestones like walking or talking or sitting up by themselves. It's just the fact, like, every week, like 2 weeks ago, my son couldn't laugh. A week later he could laugh. 1 week my son won't be able to do one thing, and the week after he will be able to do something. And it's literally, the period of change of these kids is so crazy, and everything happens so rapidly that you're like, people are so missing out if they haven't seen your baby at such a small age. So yeah, I record everything. You've got so many milestones that happen in this period of time, whether it's like rolling over, controlling their own head, like following you with your eyes, like following you. So my son, when he was first born, yeah, he obviously couldn't really see very far, like they can't see a lot. Within a month, all of a sudden, like we used to, like, say you're my son, we'd move like from here to here, and he would be delayed following us with his eyes, like he'd be delayed, but all of a sudden he that was then following you properly as you were doing it. And it's like small things like that are big things that you're like, oh my gosh, he's defo learning. Like even when they start doing their first smile, their first laugh, their personality develops so much during this period of time, so much during this period of time. But yeah, basically this is just a video just to say, like, the 4th trimester is such a weird trimester because it's the maddest adjustment period I think you'll ever have in your life. And my sister says to me, like, do you feel like a mum? And that's such a weird question to get. Do I feel like a mum? But I think I do feel like a mum. I'm pretty sure I feel like a mum. And though it was a really difficult period, this 4th trimester, I've learned so much, my son's developed so much, and I'm in such a better position now. And everyone regularly says to me, like, I'm doing such a good job. And that little bit of reinforcement is really, really helpful, especially when you're constantly doubting whether you're doing enough or these kind of things. And I'm currently doing this kind of parenting thing at the moment, and it's called the Circle of Security. And one day I'll get into a video about that. But I just want to finish up with just saying, like, you're doing a good job. And I know you're gonna say, but oh, I did this wrong, No, you're doing a good job, and that's all that matters. Your baby's healthy, your baby loves you, you love your baby, you're trying your best, and that's all that matters. But thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Comment any questions down below, and I'll see you in the next video.